is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
Today, we are thrilled to be joined by two of the brilliant minds behind Hallmark's brand new 6-episode holiday rom-com series, 12 Dates Til Christmas. We've got showrunner Erin Rodman, whose credits include The Christmas House and The Christmas House 2, Deck Those Halls, as well as Christmas Class Reunion, and writer and producer Zac Hug, known for some of our favorites like Ghosts of Christmas Always, The More the Merrier. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thrilled to be here.
Yeah.
We have loved this series. Loved it. We can't say enough about it. And as Wendy said in our first review, it's like grab Hallmark by the shoulders and say like, let's keep doing more of this, please, kind of love.
I mean, that's what we always wanted to happen and hear. So
of course.
I'm so glad.
Well, let's talk about how it came to be. It's adapted from a book by Jennie Bayliss. I'd love to know just the origin story. Did you read the book? Did someone come to you? How did the series come to be?
So a producer sent the book to me before it was published. And as you may know, it's very common in Hollywood for manuscripts of books to go out around town to producers, to writers, to studios before they're published. Sometimes they're never published, but the manuscript still gets optioned or bought to be adapted into a TV series or a movie. This was Jennie's first book. She was not yet. This was her foray into being a novelist. It was sent to me in manuscript form. At the time, I loved this producer, but I did not have the bandwidth to take on the project. And so about a year later, that producer wound up as an executive at Hallmark and called me and said, can we take another crack at this? And so I had loved the book and loved the concept. I think that the 12 Dates of Christmas as a dating service, like a Christmas-themed dating service you could do every year at Christmas, is like, I wish it was real.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd sign you up so hard. Like I would just. There's so many people that you wanna.
So I reached out to Jennie. It took me a little time to get to her through social media. I reached out to her directly and said, "Hey, there's interest in this, and here's who I am, and let's talk and let's see if we want to be partners." In my, a lot of times the author is not involved. You just option the material or deal with reps, but I really thought there was a benefit to us being partners and finding something together. And I like that. I like collaboration. I like taking advantage of all the work she's already done on this story, on building this world. And she was an absolutely huge part of this process and still is. She was in the writer's room. She was on set. So it all started back 5 years ago before the book was published, but it's been a nice, long, beautiful relationship, and she's published many books since then.
Can I ask you a question about the writer's room? I saw a screenshot of a Zoom. Is your writer's room virtual, or are you actually sitting in the same space doing the work?
It was virtual. It was virtual for two reasons. One is it did allow for all of us to not have to be in the same space, and Jennie's in England, and I was on the East Coast for part of the writer's room period. But even when we were all in LA. LA traffic is real.
Yep.
The city can be a pain. People have kids they got to pick up at a certain time, and an hour in traffic, to all come together in the same room. There's definitely a benefit of it. And if we'd had a longer writer's room, perhaps that would have been the choice. But it was truly just easier on all of our lives and schedules to do it over Zoom.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like we've opened up that window, right? 5 years ago, it was like, oh, we can do so much more work this way and honor everyone's schedules and time.
You can be in your sweatpants,
pajamas. Yeah,
you can make your lunch and eat your snack. I mean, it just
you can blur your background and be in your bedroom, but yeah.
But I think we made a joint decision, like we talked about it as a group, because you don't want to sacrifice something valuable in the chemistry of being in a room together, without thoughtlessly. You want to make sure everybody still feels like we could do a great job via Zoom.
Yeah.
So both of you have extensive Hallmark resumes, but this show has a really fresh, sharp tone. we obviously love Hallmark. It's what we do, but it feels real Netflixy in a really good way. And I'm wondering how like this whole team of, Hallmark familiar creators came to create such a fresh take on this story. And was there any pushback at all when that was happening? Of course, it still like checks all of the boxes, but it's different.
Yeah, to me, so I was brought on by Erin, and they had already worked on, I think the first 2 episodes were written when I joined up. But my take when I started was like, this is Hallmark how it exists, kind of in my head when I'm writing it. This is kind of how, but which is not to say that like it changes or becomes something else. I think there was more time to create it, and these movies are made quickly, and there is not a formula, but also there is an expectation and a brand around the stories that you tell. And I think audiences expect something from a 2-hour movie that in a TV show you really, if you moved that quickly, and if you told the story with that lens on it that the movies exist in, you would lose something in the TV show, I think, because these stories have to move so quickly, and you gloss over stuff. The show, you have all these characters, you have to service all of them, you have to give them all interesting lives. I mean, I love that scene where Laura's at home with her husband. Like, her husband is this solid dude, and that, you don't have time in a lot of ways to sort of prove that like the confidant has this life that's awesome. And I think here in 6 episodes, while you're still limited in time, you've got more space and more room to breathe a little bit about everyone's emotional lives. And so I think that to me is the great joy of it, is that you get to live in it a little bit longer, and that feels nice.
I think that there's a chain of people that explain why this feels appealing for Hallmark, right for the Hallmark audience, right for, that brand, but also perhaps larger. Partially because of Jennie, the way she writes in her novels. Her girls party, and we walked that back to some degree in developing this story. She writes very grounded, real women, so they do things in the real world that we all do when you're single and when you're dating. And then, so we started with what already felt kind of like a swing, but Hallmark was always very supportive, really loved the book, really liked what that brought. So we had their support early on with, trying something. Because the great thing about working with Hallmark, no one knows their audience better than those executives. Yeah. And they don't expect you to already know. They are able to tell you. Like, we try things, and then they say, too far, or go farther, or how about this? So it's a real collaboration. That's the benefit of those executives in so many ways, is that they aren't going to throw you to the wolves and say, guess what Hallmark wants. They're really going to help you find that bullseye, and no one knows better than them.
Yeah.
So your job is to bring your distinct voice, your level of comedy, push them sometimes and see what happens. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So there was Jennie, there were our Hallmark executives. And then I have to give credit to my co-showrunner, Dava Avena, who is, a very seasoned TV writer, and the only one of us on the writing staff not from Hallmark, who'd never done Hallmark before. She's done incredible shows like Firefly Lane, and she worked on like mainstream shows on ABC. So she really was the seasoned TV writer, had run writers' rooms before, had been an EP, executive producer. So we brought her in to, help. She had just had the most experience of the whole process. And by not having someone who was very familiar with the genre and writing strong women and writing rom-com, TV and like series long stories, she didn't bring any preconceived notions. And so we had a real fresh perspective. And that was intentional. Hallmark had always wanted to work with her, and this was an opportunity to do so. I lucked out big time in having a partner who had all this experience and curiosity about finally like working in the Hallmark space. And so she was our leader in the writer's room, and she was on set with me, almost the whole time. And so she was part of that chain as well. So it really is the fabric. We intentionally built a fabric of creators for this series. And then you bring in May, who has not done, has maybe done Hallmark. I think she's done one or two, maybe when she was younger. I honestly don't remember. I don't know. I should know the answer to that. It's horrible that I don't. But she is different, and she has her own perspective, and she brought a lot to the character. So all these things factored into it, and that is like part of the magic of this particular project, I think.
Well, you bring up May. I think that's the perfect transition because she is like, having seen this, I can't imagine anybody else as Kate. But was there anything for you that shifted Kate's personality or performance once May was brought on?
Oh, she's so funny. Oh my God. I used to joke with her on set about she pitch line changes and they were better. And I was like, I was like, you're going to be in the Writers Guild by the end of this production because she just has so much experience. Like, no, literally, I don't know that. I mean, since she was a tiny child, on sets, knows how to just be a terrific collaborator with everyone, crew, cast, writers, everybody. But she is fearless about pitching jokes. She tries things, and she's very funny. She's a very funny person, a very entertaining person, and we were so lucky that she brought that to the character. But yeah, I mean, literally day to day to day, I could look at almost every scene and tell you something that she added to what was on the page.
I think also, though, she's in so many ways, if I were to make a movie of Erin's life, I would cast May. That because in the writer's room, we talked a lot, like we would occasionally refer to Kate as, we'd be like, and then Kate goes to the thing. Like her voice, I don't think we meant to do it, but I think that her voice sort of naturally, Erin and I have been friends for 15 years, and I think one of the reasons is that is the person that I try to write. Right, when I'm writing anything, right, it's sort of like, give me a real person, give me this woman who knows herself, who is fallible, but also like really smart and kind and wants things out of the world, and is really funny about it. And so a lot of the story I think we all kind of just rallied around that character. And there is a blend. I mean, in the chain of how this turned out, like I would also note that Erin is so much of the voice of that character, and how everyone relates to her, to Kate, is a lot of how people relate, I think, to Erin in a lot of ways. And I just, that was one of my favorite pieces of watching this, was like, I'm watching a television show about my best friend.
Well, I mean, I have flaws for days, and what is better for a main character than someone who's got lots of issues?
That's so funny you say that, because as we watch a lot of Hallmark movies, we review a lot of Hallmark movies, we watch a lot of other TV too, and we have always said, since we've been doing this, is like, we want messy characters. We want characters who look like us, who are doing things, making decisions, making bad mistakes just like we do. Like, that's very relatable TV, and I freaking love Kate. Can you tell us how May was brought to you guys? Like, when you were writing the show, were you like, yeah, we want to do it with May Whitman, or was she presented to you as an
And did you
option?
go, oh my God, when she got cast?
Literally have never recovered from the news that she said yes. So even now, I still can't believe it. She was number one on our list. And as the casting process is, there's a million factors that make an actor available or not available, or just flat out say no. She was number one on our list. Hallmark was very interested in, finding a way to work with her. She's on everyone's radar. If you're a woman of a certain age, you're interested in what she's doing. And so she was number one, and she said yes, like within a couple days. It was the most simple process ever of casting. I still can't believe she said yes. I still can't believe Hallmark. I mean, I just can't believe it all worked. It's like the thing where you're like, she said yes, and we were all like, okay, nobody move. Something is going to make her change her mind. And then I think, yeah.
What a get. I love seeing her on Hallmark. I'm a huge fan of hers. So
yeah.
When it was announced earlier this year that this series was coming, I was like, who's coming to Hallmark? What? So
I was so proud.
Very cool.
We couldn't tell anybody for a while. I mean, I think so we'd written all the scripts before. And so by the time we got to casting, the writer's room was pretty much finished, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, we were gone.
We had written the show, so we didn't write with her in mind. And so, but her saying yes codified the tone of the stories. So like, by virtue of knowing it was going to be her, I think we all took like this deep breath of like the way the comedy feels, the way the heart, and the emotion comes through, all of it is going to be in good hands. And like, she's going to know what to do with that tone and preserve it and add to it. And, she delivered in every single way. And because she's such a professional, she knows how to like just show up, and the crew was obsessed with her. She was friends with everybody. Like, she just she knows how to be a number one on the call sheet. She just knew how to set it was a dream. It was a dream. It's still a dream. I still can't believe it, yeah.
We have said that this show has a little bit of a Gilmore Girls sensibility to it, which for us is a huge compliment. We love that show. We love that pacing. Is that something that you strive for? Is that something that you recognize? Is that our feeling is like, May is like 6 degrees of separation away from Gilmore Girls with her friendship from Lauren Graham. So like, did she bring that? It obviously comes through in the writing because the writing's snappy.
Yeah. So I think I could be wrong about this because it's all last week is kind of a blur. The week the show comes out, I feel like People Magazine did an article that said that in the title. That the show feels like Gilmore Girl, or like May Whitman name checked Lauren Graham and the tone of something, and I was like, like this is the most amazing comparison. And I think the bottom line is, the things we all love in culture, we just want more of. So it was not intentional in the sense that we sat in the room and said, how do we make
Gilmore Girls 2.0? Yeah.
But did I, from the time I started pitching the show 4 years ago, did I always say Blexford, which is the English village, at the heart of the show, is the Stars Hollow of England? Think of it as a community in this way, where there's irreverent characters and there's a community spirit and a real devotion to this place, and that it'll be the kind of place you see on screen and wish was real, that you could live in. And so it was, on our minds for sure, but on our minds because we loved the show so much, loved, Gilmore Girls so much, and I wish there was 10 more seasons.
Sure.
And, everything I write is chasing a certain emotion that I felt before as a viewer, and I want to create a story that elicits that same feeling in myself and others.
Yeah.
So in the spiritual sense, I do think it's thrilling to think that people find them in the same universe.
Yeah.
Well, you talked a little bit about Blexford. Ireland stands in for London in much of this movie. What was it like filming on location in Ireland, and did that kind of shape obviously it does, but shape the feel of the movie for you arriving there?
Yes.
Not the series, not the movie, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So London was actually London. Our first 5 days of shooting, 3 days of shooting was in London. And then we all moved to Ireland, and the rest is, Ireland for England. I will tell you that I think I can speak for, everyone I know involved in this production had the most amazing time in Ireland with the most talented Irish crew and actors, the most warm welcome as, a giant production that clunked into town. It was bothered everybody for 5 months. The talent, the people we got in each department, the art director and our costumes and our hair and makeup, everybody was so incredible and so good. We were so lucky that a lot of our crew had worked on Wednesday, and a lot of our crew had worked on Vikings, and they were people who had done all these big shows, and they hadn't done Christmas, so nobody was sick of Christmas. Nothing felt like it was all fresh and new. And so we would have these meetings in the art department and with the production designer, and he's excited about doing Christmas, which was so fun too. Mm-hmm. Capitalize on everyone's enthusiasm. But I would say that the way in which Ireland had the most impact on the show is that the way we all felt about each other, it really is so cliched to say about the crew becomes a family and all of that, but no kidding. Our text chain, which is 103 people, is still going, and we wrapped in May. So this is, and it's almost all Irish people and then some Americans and some English people, but it is we all lament this is over because it was such a wonderful experience. Everyone was so kind and so had a good time on set, and I think you can feel that. Yeah. I think you can tell you can't always tell when like production's brutal, and you can't always feel that in the product. But I believe that a lot of the warmth and joy you can sense in this show is because the people were actually feeling those things.
It felt like theater school. I mean, to me, like I was on set briefly, like I was there a couple of weeks, just kind of for in and out. But it really felt like when people come together to make community theater, except they all are much better at their jobs and they've been doing it for many, many years and they know how to work a camera. But also every set that I walked onto, it felt like it came out of my head but was better. Like the escape room. I walked in there and there were someone had found all of these incredible sculptures that were Christmas villages that were kind of like a Tim Burton Christmas. And like I just stood there for like an hour kind of going through the room and thinking to myself, like, what? This is like living in my own head. I'm spooked. But they were all, it was the nicest, loveliest people. They had us over for dinner. Like we crashed
Easter.
Erin and I, just like this guy and his wife and their kids and their mom.
People from the sound department were like, "Don't spend Easter by yourself. Come."
So we didn't.
Wow.
It never ended. There was just this excitement and thrill for everybody, and I think like we shot. There's all the scenes that take place in Nicola by Nicola, which is the Savile Row design house where Kate works as a textile designer. Is a real Irish tailor. Like it's been there for over like 100 years, forever. And it was like he just let us. He was such a wonderful man, and had this incredible story about being orphaned when he was a kid, and like being basically raised in the attic of a tailor, and like became a tailor himself, and then had these kids, and then adopted kids. I mean, he was just like this Irish twinkle in his eye. Yeah. I'm like, it was too good to be true. And one of the production designers has a daughter who works in fashion, and so he had her send the clothes she'd made, and we used those in the show as part of the. So there was just this endless amount of like people just willing to give their things and be a part of it and contribute, and it all felt so like community theater. Like just we were all trying really hard, running in the same direction to make this great thing and this fun thing.
The dates are very cool production value wise. The content, is there one that was the hardest to pull off?
The London Eye.
Oh,
There's not a London Eye. It doesn't happen. It's the hot air balloon.
I think they each had their hardship.
yeah.
I think that you want them to be so dazzling that they all felt pressurized to be that. So and that's not a very fun answer, but like for every single one, it was like, how do we knock this out of the park? And then what can we pull off with budget and weather and cast availability and like what's actually possible? I think Zac said the escape room, they built it out of nothing, and it's so incredible, and it was a playground for the crew, between takes. I almost want to say that the hardest was the final date 12, because it had to feel so grand and like worthy of a finale, and finding the right space and having the right feeling for that was like we all were sweating to make sure that it would actually feel that special and transportive.
Well, speaking of dates, we have to ask about Callum. Not knowing the full emotional arc, at what point were you like, okay, well, we got to thread the needle here? And again, we have not seen the whole thing, so this is not a spoiler. But to us, having seen the first two, it's like, well, is he the obvious love interest, or is this a red herring? Like, how did you walk that line with Callum and with
Richard?
Richard, heart eye emojis.
I know.
Wow.
I will say, the writer's room, that was the most fun, because up until the last minute, I mean, I think how the book ends, and I won't spoil it here, but we had a hard time. I was on both teams at different times, right? I was on the team of the guy in the escape room for a minute. Who's the guy that I really loved? There was one date where I was like, he needs more story, and they were like, we do not have time to tell the story about this poor sweet man at the salsa club. Sorry, but I think that's the part of it, is that if you're going to send someone on 12 dates, I'm all for 12. I'll go on 12. I'll go on 100 dates. Like I want to meet people. I'm interested in the stories they have to tell, and I think keeping that character on her back foot the whole time was one of the was one of the best things to write, because it does, again, when you're in a 2-hour movie, well, at some point they're going to kiss, and then they're going to be together forever, fade to black, and the snow falls, and we didn't have that, right? Like that doesn't exist in this universe, and I think that what a fun thing to write, particularly in a Christmas story, that it's not just two people linking up, it's a character who wants things outside of this dating life for herself, and they are the obstacle and also the prize. I think that was an incredible, what a gift for a writer to throw together. So.
Well, I feel like what we really wanted to make it clear, and this feels true to life, is you always have choices. That, you know, that this notion of like fate or like, you know, the right one, there is the feeling of that, but there is also, you can still mess it up. You can still choose something else. You know, there are options here, and it may be that you have a sense, because of the genre and the tropes we work with, that who it's going to be. But even in that case, how?
Yeah.
And starting with Callum in a relationship, and starting with Kate and Callum in this deep friendship, creates a question of, well, how from here to there? And the hope is that journey's entertaining. It feels true and emotionally resonant, that, you know, it can happen this way, and that there's curiosity about it. So, you know, you will find out why they aren't together, why they weren't together, and what stands in the way for the future. You'll find out, and hopefully that is a rewarding, you know, reveal. But in the meantime, she's trying on different, you know, feelings and chances, and you know, there's no point putting her through the dating process if she wasn't taking it seriously. So she couldn't be dialed into someone else so that the 12 dates were just filler. You know, it had to feel like, you know, possibilities, and that someone could turn your head. You could think you know what you want, but someone could turn your head and surprise you. And then what does that bring up? And what does that mean? And what should you explore? What instincts should you follow? So that was the playground, hopefully.
Well, just that it makes her a better artist. I think that was my favorite part of it, was that we kept coming back to this thing that she is not out to find someone to date. She is out to reinvent or reinvigorate the life she's living. And this is a piece of it. And that those things do, you know, inspiration comes from the emotional life of a character. And I think watching her discover, like that scene where she's on the roof and she starts sketching, I think there's something great about showing a character in their daily life how this affects them, rather than that is the goal, that is the want of the character. The want of the character is very much grounded in, this is a character who knows something is missing in her life. It probably isn't a dude, and it isn't, right? That she has, what she has done is sort of shrunk away from herself, and this is her throwing herself back into the world. And I think that
there's value in the experience.
Correct. Yeah.
The experience itself, regardless of the outcome, is going to change things.
I think that comes through so strongly right off the bat. Like, we have the first 5 dates, right? And Kate's not excited about this. Like, she's irritated going into it that her friends have put her in this position. But then she commits immediately. Like, even when she's in the igloo alone, like, she's popping champagne and having a good time by herself. Yep. And then she has that date, the ice skating date, where he cries into her mouth, which, by the way, we need to know who is responsible for that line.
I think that's Erin, isn't it? I don't remember, but I think that's Erin. Yeah.
Well, Dava, is that episode 1? Then yes, it's me. I'll take it. That actor was so great that we wrote him into more things throughout the season.
Well, and that's the nice thing, right? It's like, it doesn't end. Like, these guys, his story carries through, and he reconnects back, you know, to Kate's core group. And even she has that baking date, and you're like, well, this isn't the guy. But also, she's all in. Like, she's fully connected with him. They have this great connection moment talking. And I loved the way May did that, where she wasn't like, I'm just checking the box so my friends get off. She was there and all in. And then she orchestrates, she wingmans that dance, which is so great. Like the fan scene where she blocks the guy from getting onto the dance. It's so good. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to hear you say that. I think that it was important that we be like, she's not interested in a relationship, but that is not the only reason you date.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's just the truth.
If it
And-
wasn't 12 dates, it could have been 12 murders. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's reinvigorating. Like, it's a different show. It's Black Doves at that point. But, like, it's, you know, if she's reinvigorating her sense of herself, and this one happens to be through dating. And I thought that was I love that about this.
But I agree with you that the way May played it, she's not someone she's a creative in the world. She's not afraid of experiences. She's not afraid of a good time just because she's in a low moment in life. She's not like a wallflower. She's not a weirdo who needs someone to drag her into society. Like, she knows how to be in the world and do stuff. And so that's not the issue.
Yeah.
That's not her issue.
Speaking of relationships, can we talk about Mac and Evelyn and the lovely Jane Seymour?
I mean, with another kind of pinch me moment of casting.
Of course.
For sure. And she was such an enthusiastic participant in this. Like, she was so here for the love story, for the ways in which it was about two people who had been through a lot in life and were deciding whether or not to maybe look at each other a certain way, you know, and try this again, or find a connection, whether it's romantic or platonic. And they just, you know, she and Nathaniel Parker just knocked it out of the park as far as I'm concerned. They have great chemistry. They took it seriously, and they carried with it, you know, a lot of intention into making this love story feel just as important in the whole series as anything.
She also changed. I mean, to me, the role, writing Evelyn and watching Jane play Evelyn, there was a very interesting change in the character from my experience in the room, because I was famously very protective of Evelyn. I don't know why. Something about that character, I was like, nothing bad can happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but in my head, she was a little bit, you know, drier and a little bit crankier about things. And then you put all those words in Jane Seymour's mouth, and they are the most charming, lovely human who knows themselves, right? And I was like, oh, that's how that works so well, is, you know, you write towards one thing, and then an actress comes in and goes, hold on, said a lot of it line for line, and it still just changed it entirely and made this really well-rounded character who had a lot going on inside of them. So,
and she has the most beautiful hair.
the most
Oh. Okay, before we keep going, we should probably talk about that little 7-day magic mind experiment we did last week.
Oh, yeah, that thing that I thought would absolutely do nothing, and somehow it did something.
I tried it because my afternoons have been rough. Like, I'll sit down to work and immediately think, nope, not today.
And I tried because my brain fog has been real. I can start the day feeling like I'm on top of things, and then by noon, I'm like staring at the screen going like, what was I doing? So around day 3 of the magic mind, I remember thinking like, oh, I'm just doing my thing. I'm not pausing, going, what are you doing, Wendy? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me was that I wasn't scrambling to find my focus. It's like my attention span stopped fighting with me. And because it's not coffee level intensity, I wasn't jittery. I could just sit and do the thing.
I know you're the kind of girl that's like, I can't drink a coffee in the afternoon. Here's the thing, for me, it didn't really change my personality or fix my life in any way, but it did make the week feel a little bit easier, especially towards the end of the week where I'm like done.
Yeah, just smooth the edges a little bit. Less fog, more focus. And if your brain feels like a little cluttered browser window most days, this might help.
So if you are curious, we do have a link.
It's magicmind.com/girlsgone20, and the code girlsgone20 gets you a discount.
Try it for 7 days and see if it does anything for you. We were surprised in a good way. Well, I will tell you, I watched episode 3 last night.
Zac's episode.
And when Evelyn and Matt go on their road trip, and we have this whole like scream scene, I gotta tell you, like, it really made me feel things. And as I'm watching this, I was like, I don't even care if these two end up together. I truly just love their friendship so much. And I'm so invested in whatever happens between them. And I had told Megan off mic, yes, it's fun to watch Kate's dates, but I think I'm closer in age to Mac and Evelyn. So like I'm rooting for this relationship. But anyway, lovely stuff between them in episode 3. I just love it so much.
We're all channeling our own life. I mean, Evelyn, to me, my father died 5 years ago. My mother is really, she's an adventurer now in a way that she kind of always was, but it's different. And I think that screaming off the cliff was something in the writer's room that we sort of, when we landed on it, it was very well preserved. It was like, where does it happen? Where in the episode does it happen? How does it get there? All those things. And
this is, really Zac deserves the credit for that first, like he's the one that wrote that episode, and that section of the episode remained pretty much unchanged the whole time because he really nailed it and found the right amount of sentiment, the right amount of humor, and something that felt cinematic and appropriate for like a visual medium, but still felt true and like something that could be nice if it was real, if we really had these places to express ourselves and these people that forced us to let things out. I personally absolutely love the sheep. And I think that being on set with the sheep in that little sequence was one of my favorite days on set.
Yeah. That is so funny you say that. I was watching that scene and I was like, who corralled all those
the sheep wrangler?
Literally this random farmer who had a field next to where we were shooting, and
did he have a dog?
All of our enterprising location people went over and were like, would you bring the sheep over? And he said, sure. And it was him and a dog, literally a sheep herding dog.
Wow.
And they just came down. I have a video. We're all set up for cameras, car, the actors, and in the distance is this man and his dog and this flock of sheep coming down the road.
It was wild.
It was as Irish as you could possibly imagine. But it was so fun. And some of the sheep, got into the craft services and into the camp. It just was a delightful day. Yeah. And working with animals is a real crapshoot, but it was pretty great. But Zac and I were together on set the day they shot the scream off the cliff, and it was a beautiful day. And our actors really went for it, and it was so rewarding to see it. And that location itself, that cliff, it was spectacular.
Stunning. Yeah. Well, it really translated on screen. I'm
glad to hear that.
Was really moved by it. So nice work.
Shooting in Ireland, you touched on it briefly, but one of my favorite places in the world is Ireland. My parents go there all the time, and we come back and we say, how was the weather? My mom says it was Irish. It's very, did that impact filming days? I mean, you were there
We did not have Irish weather.
Wow.
I know. It's another one of those things that makes you feel like this was a magical. So it was dark and cold. We shot, a lot of times Hallmark movies shoot in the summer, and we shot February through May. So we shot and start in the dark of winter into spring. I think we had one rain day. That's it. One day where rain really impacted our schedule. And
wow.
A lot of our exteriors, we had no rain. We had blue skies to the point where I was like, this is a problem. This is California.
Right. Because those flowers came back at one point, and it was like, we've got flowers on the hillside. Ew. We shot in a park, and the daffodils were coming in, and I was like, I'm just going to take some scissors and I'm just going to run. And they were like, you cannot do that. And I was like, well, just everybody look away. We'll just get rid of the flowers. But it wasn't when we first learned that we were going to shoot in Ireland, because there were multiple options of places to shoot for England, and Ireland was one of them. When we settled on Ireland, my concern was the rain was going to be the weather was going to somehow impact this, and it really wasn't an issue. Yeah.
Switching gears completely. Yeah, thanks, Ireland. Switching gears completely. The diversity and representation in this cast is so great. How much of a hand did you have in that? How important was that? Because I think we're telling so many different stories here that it's nice to see so many different lives represented on screen in a real, as you said, just like natural way. Not like, this is a very special episode of television and look at this same-sex couple having a dance, right? It just happens?
Yeah. Well, look, this takes place. The story takes place in London and areas right outside of London. It's an incredibly diverse place. Like, we were representing the truth of the location, truly. And there is a lot of fun in different perspectives on the holiday. So, that part is always intentional too, is just keeping, like, in a big city where there's lots of different cultures and lots of different colors and lots of different holidays, keeping it all really, true to that in real life in the show. I also want to again give Dava credit as she's a Latina and was the only diversity, really racial diversity in our writers' room, and she came in very connected to that topic, and all of us are too. We were all really aware that we wanted to keep that in mind. But when we went through the casting process, it was something we talked about all the time, was making sure this felt like true life. And in real life, we all live in big cities, and this is what life looks like. So it was simply that, but it was absolutely something that was intentional.
Well, and every person on the screen is more beautiful than the next. Like, people walk on, I'm like, what?
Even I was like, like everybody. Also, everyone was so tall except for May.
Oh,
Which was also so funny. But yeah, there was a lot of good-looking people.
Yeah.
It's
Hallmark. What are you going to do? Yeah.
You talked about a lot of fidelity to the script. The script was written. May shows up. She slides right in, puts her own little spin on it. Are there any improvised moments that made it into the final cut? Anything that you go, oh, wait, yeah, that's good?
Many. I'm trying to think. I'm going to think of episode 1 and 2. Zach, if you can think of any.
I haven't even seen episode 3 yet. Like, I'm seeing it Friday. I'm very excited.
Oh.
Well, I just was in post-production I could recite the entire series to you all by memory. And, it's funny, I never got tired of it, which I am also, am I like a narcissist? Couldn't get tired of her own show, but I never got tired of it.
Can you do that jump cut monologue opening by heart? Because, oh my gosh, that's so good. It should be in a museum.
So good.
I can think of a couple things that, May, like, one of them that comes to mind, I think it's episode 4, where Callum agrees to do something that he said he's not going to do. And she says, "You crumbled like a cookie." And that was not the line. And I liked, it was her, she tried a bunch of different things like that. And we loved that one. And that's like not the most exciting example, but it's just, there were a million moments like that where she just could give you like, let me try 5 different ways of saying, the same thing, and which one was cuter or funnier. And I remember when she did that, I was like, damn, that was good. Yeah. Like, I like that choice. And I love these times when she brings in her own creativity and humor.
There's also that scene in episode 4 where they're in the tea house. It's Delilah and Mac and Kate. And I was weirdly on set that day because I am in the shot. I got to sit behind Mary McDonnell because she is, top tier. I teach a class about her arc in Battlestar Galactica. Like, she's my favorite human. Don't meet your heroes unless it's Mary McDonnell. But there was this moment where I think Mary and May looked at each other and went, "Wait, are we doing this or are we doing this?" And the director just was like, "What's your take?" And they tweaked the scene and I think they flipped like 4 lines over on themselves, and suddenly everything worked really well. And it was just such a wild thing to watch 2 actresses who have been doing it and know it that hard, like know the process, work with the director, work with everybody else in the room and go, so let's just change that to that. Great. Yeah. And then they shot it and we were all out of there. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think the benefit when you have people like May, people like Mary, people like Jane, who've done so much, they have an intuition about some of these choices, and it is in those moments, I always have the same feeling, which is like, oh my God, that's great. And then followed by, why didn't I think of that? Yes. But it keeps you humble.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember it isn't just you write a thing and they say the words. It can be a collaboration. Everyone finds it together, and that is a good thing. And that it should be encouraged. when you have trusted collaborators like we did. And, when, especially for a series where you're spending this much time with the characters, May was invested and, Mary was invested and Jane was invested in what their characters were doing for 6 episodes so that it felt real and felt like they could bring something special. And they all did. And I appreciate so much that they felt comfortable being able to do that.
Well, they knew how they were thinking 5 steps ahead of all of us. They knew what it would be like in the editing room. They knew how it would play, what they would need later, and it was a shocking thing to witness. But that, I would say that's pretty common. Like, I have now worked. Cardi Wong is in 2 Christmas movies, and when I found out he was cast in More the Merrier, I rewrote for him because in Road to Christmas, there's this one moment where he ad-libbed this line where they all come to the door and she opens it up and he just went, "Hi, Mama." And I burst into tears every time. And everyone talks about that in like reviews, and not scripted, just Cardi being really good. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, that's the guy you call, right? Mm-hmm. Like you then say, can we get him in this role again so that we can do this thing? And like I've tried to get him in every movie now simply because he did it again in More the Merrier. He has this like, he changed a line about where his family was for Christmas, and like, it's 10 times touching. It's 10 times better than I would have come up with. So it's,
The first time I ever worked really closely with an actor in this way was with Rob Buckley in Christmas House. And we, that was his original pitch, and we conceived of the story together, and then I wrote the script. But he had such we would sit and talk about the story and the scenes, and he would kind of start to perform a little, and I felt like such a dummy because I'd never really been that aware of how actors take what you've written and start to make it feel natural and make it feel connected to a character and all that. And sitting and doing some of that and then being able to edit the script along the way in development with his input, I was like, oh my God, this is gold to be able to really have that, oh my gosh, how great. And you find the best line together because they're finding what performs best for them and you're finding, what sounds best and what's going to connect to the story later. It was terrific. And it made me very unafraid to do that in the future with other actors. And on this show, every time the actor was like, I want to talk about this scene, I'm like, oh, yes, tell me what all your thoughts are. What do you want, let's talk it through, because you can't be afraid to change something and find the better version. It has to be okay that what you have on the page is, it is always up for discussion to some degree. It doesn't mean you throw it out. Sometimes you talk to the actor and you keep exactly what's on the page, but it is not a conversation to be afraid of.
It's so funny that you say that about, you're like, oh, this is how it works, because speaking about Christmas House, the mother in that show,
it's Sharon Lawrence.
I know. I know. We just saw her on Finding Mr. Christmas, and she does these 4 scenes with these 4 actors. And I felt that moment. I was like, oh, she changed her performance to match the energy of the guy in the room. That's acting. It was just it's like
more than memorizing lines.
Yeah.
And it's we know that, but then you see it.
Not that I thought it was easy.
Right. Exactly. And, yes.
But watching someone like Sharon Lawrence take it and just tweak it ever so slightly, it just had a different feel every time. And in our review, I was like, that was amazing to see happen. Yeah. So, I think that's very interesting to watch it come to life.
Well, I want to give a shout out to our director for Block 1, Emer Conroy, is a big director in Ireland, and she's been on the series Blood of My Blood, which is the spinoff of Outlander. And so she's used to being in fields and rain and blood and stuff. And then she came into our, half of our series and Christmas loveliness. But she and May connected really early, really quickly. And watching the way that Emer would share, directing, the way she did it, the suggestions she'd make, she'd find one emotional thing to just speak on simply and let the actor take it from there. And I felt like it was such an education for me to understand how you speak to an actor in that way. Because, as showrunners, Dava and I are there. Our hands are in everything. We're watching everybody all the time, and changing the scripts and changing the budgets and, overseeing everything, but we don't direct. And, the relationship between the director and the actors is sacred. And so watching that and seeing how that shapes the scenes too, I was grateful to get to see that firsthand and see it so successfully.
Yeah.
And our second block director, Megan Fox, not that Megan Fox, different Megan Fox. She was so great at finding the joke, finding the way the framing would really enhance the actors and explaining that to them. It was just such a great part of this. But the performances, well, the actors deserve the lion's share of the credit. Obviously, I don't want to miss a chance to credit our great directors, and it was fun to have a bunch of women at the top of the
Yes.
female showrunners.
You can
female
tell
directors.
the set is so different when that happens, and it is a million times better. So all the sets that you're on, the ones that are run by women, you're sort of like, oh God, thank God. It's just exhausting otherwise, because it's like, is there going to be yelling? I just don't have time for that.
I can breathe. Yeah. Relax your
And things can
jaw.
be intense. I'm not saying that that's not
Sure.
but boy, in the long run, you really feel the chance to go to work for a woman who is a showrunner is, oh God. If you're out there and you're hoping, like, that is the key to just making work well, I would say.
Well, I want to say that I feel like this story meant a lot to me. I mean, I was really hoping it would be entertaining and funny and Christmassy and cozy and transportive in the way the holiday is, or something like that. But I also wanted it to feel like real women and real people and the real relationship, between all the different characters, the men as well. And, I do think that we had the benefit of being nuanced women and bringing all these experiences about love and family and friendship to the story. It was just tried not to be cliche as often as possible with the rom-com, tropes that we're so familiar with.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also, this is the part also that I keep finding, having now done rom-coms this long, is that they are fantasy in a lot of ways, but it's so based in a truth of, and like very specifically, the first year I wrote a bunch of these movies, I wanted to be away from Christmas, and Erin turned to me on my way out and was like, you're gonna fall in love while you're on a trip away for Christmas, because now you've written this for yourself. And like, no, I didn't, but I did have the most romantic Christmas on record. Like, we watched Watership Down. There was a fire. It was snowing outside. There was a cat. Like, it was very much, but the idea that, like, the tropes that you see in these movies, like, of course there's a confidant. I have one. It's Erin, right? Like, I'm going to write these characters. The reason that a lot of these stories are like, well, someone goes home for Christmas. Yeah, you go home for Christmas. That's a thing that happens every year. That, it's extrapolating on the emotional lives of the people who are writing them. And so I think this particular group of people who were assembled to create that, like, at every level. I mean, starting in the writer's room, but then extrapolating it out. I think everybody felt really comfortable bringing that part of themselves, the rom-com part of their own lives, to this story.
Well, before we go, what are you most excited for viewers to see in the upcoming episodes?
There's a thing that happens to the pear tree that I feel like I bullied into the story with Max handicrafts, that it's one of my favorite things, and I'm dying to see, because I wasn't there when it was shot, but I'm dying to see how it turned out. So there's a thing with that.
Oh.
I like all the kissing. So
Yeah. What's not to
kisses
like?
to come, I'm really excited about, and I think that every single time a date, like, gets to come to life on screen, I'm excited for people to see it, and curious if people think, like, I wish I could do that and go to that and have that. I also love the sheep. Endlessly love the sheep.
That car. I love that car. That car is amazing. Yeah.
There was Zach, I can't remember if you were there. I got called to the art department one day, and they had a board full of car photos. They're like, pick a car for Evelyn. And I was like,
that one.
fun. Yeah. And that was really fun.
It's so fun to hear, like, the inside baseball of it all. Like, wow,
The
tell us
sheep and
more.
the car and the
It
beautiful
was like
weather.
in the script, I think it was like a Volkswagen thing. It was like a boxy, like those weird.
Yeah.
I kept putting it in. They were like, "That's an ugly car." But it's beautiful what they got.
But I think that as the conflict increases as like the date, as romances develop, and there's more heightened sort of conversation. Those scenes are my favorite. Is when May and Richard and Callum. I just mix the actors.
We do that all the time.
We get to like take it one step further, and it's not just flirty and it's not just lovely. It's actually like digging into the relationship stuff. Those scenes, I really love those scenes.
Plus Delilah. I mean, Delilah.
Oh yeah, Mary McDonnell. Yeah,
She's just the greatest human ever to walk the planet or any.
I guess we could just list all the things we like about this show. We're just never gonna stop this episode.
Well, why don't you tell people where they can follow your work and keep up with you after this episode?
I'm simple. I'm just Instagram Erin917. I'm gonna post a lot of pictures of the sheep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm less Instagram. You can find mostly me at zachhug.com or storyhugwriting.com, where I do some consulting and such. So
Great.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your time and your stories with us. Thank you to our listeners for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. We will be back next time with more Hallmark reviews. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.